It's time for Reason.
Yes, and yes. They should be scared. They should be absolutely petrified of the fact that we are talking about trying to change the Constitution because this is their loophole. Now, what we have to do, Republicans, you have to rally around one singular movement. You have to create the amendment in order to change the suitable funding phrasing in the Constitution. You have to be able to do it.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I'll get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Good morning to you. Welcome into the Voice of Reason right here on the Mid-America Network. It's a Tuesday, and what do we do best on a Tuesday being the greatest day of the entire week? You've already used up your get-go on a Monday. You're struggling through a Tuesday. My job is to get you excited and pumped up for a whole nother day before hump day, before you see the light at the end of the tunnel, and we go down into the easy part of the week, is that we make it exciting. We make it the best that we possibly can, and that's what my job is. At least we attempt to on a daily basis. Welcome into it here on the Voice of Reason. I am Andy Hoosier. It's an honor to have you along as we do every single morning, advancing conservatism, spreading our word through the 5-state area, throughout the entire state of Kansas and beyond. We love it. We appreciate it. And welcome aboard. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join in, we need to comment on this. This is driving me nuts, and I'm getting frustrated. When has it been okay? When did we get to the point to where all you have to do is attack an individual's character if you disagree with them politically? If you do not like who they are politically, then it's okay for you to taint their name, for you to abuse them, for you to make accusations. No proof, just accusations from something that happened potentially 40 years ago. When has it been okay for accusations to be thrown about, mudslinging, to attack someone's character, for you to go after them personally because you disagree with them politically? This has been the lowness, the dirtiness, the sleaziness that has invaded politics. And it's been going on for a while. And predominantly, not all of it, but predominantly has been done by progressives. If you do not like who they are politically, if you do not agree with them, do not try and argue with them with substance based on the policies that you disagree with, but go after their character, because then you can taint their name, you can ruin their reputation, and then you can stop what they're trying to do. And it's a very easy process for the progressives to be able to do that. Now, I mentioned progressives because it's not a Democrat-Republican thing, but it's the progressives. It's the establishment, whether it's the Democrats in this race that are trying to demonize Roy Moore, whether it's the establishment Republicans who do not like the fact that they may have potentially another conservative on the Senate, that they do not like the fact that Luther Strange lost the primary race, and they don't want another Trump conservative to go on to the Senate. Whatever the case is, I don't know who's doing it. I don't know where it's coming from, but doesn't it make sense to you at least? And look, if he's guilty, if Roy Moore is guilty of all these sexual allegations and accusations that's coming out against him, then he rightly so needs to be punished by the law under due process with all the evidence going to court. I was in a discussion last night and they brought up, oh, look at Bill Cosby. You just assumed there was as well. And more girls continue to come out with Bill Cosby. At least he got tried in trial. He went to court. He had due process, and then the law decided whether he was guilty or non-guilty. But when has it been okay? Look, Roy Moore has been a divisive figure in Alabama for a really long time. He had to step down from the Supreme Court, from the state's courts, twice in the state of Alabama. Why? Because he was religious. He was trying to bring back morals into the state, and he refused to take down the 10 Commandments from the courthouse. And because of that, he stepped down from the state courts, from the courts in the state of Alabama twice. Now, you would think during a religious debate going on in Alabama whether or not you should have the 10 Commandments in the courthouse, that someone would come back and say, oh, really, Mr. Religious? Oh, yeah, look at the sexual allegation that I had 40 years ago, or at that time, maybe 20 years ago, or 15 years ago, or whenever it actually happened, during a religious debate in the state. Now, whether you agree with Roy Moore or disagree with Roy Moore politically or religiously makes no difference here. The sleaziness and the point that we've come to in politics in the United States to where it's okay to not go up against them head on with ideology or with ideas, but just the fact that, you know what, I don't like who they are. They have a chance of winning. We need to stop them at all costs. I'm going to come out with a sexual allegation. I'm going to taint his name. I'm going to destroy their character. I'm going to destroy who they are, so therefore no one will believe them, and now their name and their reputation is tainted. Their entire career is destroyed because I came out with these allegations that have no proof, by the way. I have no way to actually be able to back any of this up, but I'm going to make the accusation. Roy's come out and said that I don't even know half of these women that are coming out, these 5 that have come out so far. One of them that you heard all the audio clips earlier this morning. Oh, yeah, you know what? I was 14 or I was 16. He signed my yearbook, and he grabbed me, and he tried to grab my throat to push me back and tried to push me down, and whatever the case is. And he's like, I don't even know this girl. I don't even know who this is. Oh, well, you signed my yearbook. So what are you saying? You saying that he tried to sexually assault you, and then, oh, hey, please sign my yearbook as a token of my remembrance of this incident? Give me a break. None of this is adding up. And being a politically divisive figure, who would have known 10 years ago when he was fighting these issues at the state Supreme Court level, who would have known that he was going to run for U.S. Senate? Show of hands. How many people would have known that Roy Moore would have tried to run for Senate at that time, would have run for a federal office at that time? At that time, he was the most politically divisive figure in the state of Alabama. He has that reputation, and you either love him in Alabama or you hate him in Alabama. Why wouldn't it have come? Why would it not have come out then? Well, that wasn't the movement, because now people are starting to get emboldened, and people are starting to feel a little more encouraged to come out because other people are doing so as well. I can kind of sort of see that argument, but now it's easier for people to come out too and make accusations that are false in the first place, just because they want to taint somebody's name. When has it become okay to demonize someone based on their character? I was in a discussion, like I mentioned, on social media last night for a little bit, and it was an individual that said, why are conservatives backing this guy? It really shows their character that they'll stand with anybody, regardless of what kind of person they actually are. Which I find quite ironic. First off, with the fact that Democrats sided by Bill Clinton when it was actually proven of what he had done to show the kind of character he is. Proven. And if you want to look at other cases here recently, at least there is evidence to back it up, because people knew about it. People actually saw it. People looked the other way, but it was an unspoken truth. They went through the due process of the law. How many college kids, and we've talked about this before and actually had guests on the show talking about this as well. College kids, when has due process just gone out the window? To hell with due process. If someone makes an accusation, that it must be true. I read a story just a few days ago as a joke, and unfortunately it's the truth now, and it's not really much of a joke, but it's still kind of ironic and comical at the same time. But a joke that a high school in California is now teaching high school students during their sex ed class that they must receive verbal consent during the performance, during the action, every 10 minutes during the time. Not just at the beginning of saying, hey, you know what, do you want to go back to my apartment, go back to my room, go back to my dorm, whatever, and do things. And I'm not going to get explicit here, obviously. But the fact that you must receive a verbal consent every 10 minutes, because we're trying to clear up the gray area. Because someone may have consented at the beginning, but then by the end of it, you know what, I changed my mind. I actually didn't want to do that. Now I can claim rape. And because that we actually did, and there's proof of it based on the samples and based on the evidence, obviously, then I'm able to, you know what, yep, they actually did. They claim rape. They didn't want to. So therefore, now we're going to accuse you, and we're going to punish you for that, because there is no longer any due process. So now with accusations like Roy Moore, you don't even have to have the evidence. All you got to do is come out and make the accusation, make the claim, taint the name, and then destroy his reputation, destroy his career, destroy who he is personally, because you disagree with him politically. The first girl that's out here making the accusation, the very first woman, is campaigning for the opposition and has had pictures taken with Joe Biden, for crying out loud. Mr. Touchy-feel-up Joe Biden, who is very friendly with women. And she's completely okay with that, but thinks that Roy Moore tried to say something about her in the past or tried to touch her in the past. Give me a break. We need to stop this to where we throw out the process of due process. Now, again, if he's guilty, let's take him to court. not during an election, by the way. We got to look at the timing of this. But if he's guilty, take him to court, go through the due process of what this actually takes, whether he's guilty or not. If it's a he said, she said, then obviously you can't do anything about it because you're innocent until proven guilty, which apparently we don't follow any longer, and then figure it out from there. But the fact that he's been a divisive figure for years in Alabama and this has never come out. And now all of a sudden, it didn't even come out during the primary. If they were so worried about him getting the nomination, and you could see in the polling that he was potentially going to win the primary over Luther Strange in Alabama, why didn't it come out then? That was still during the whole facade going on in the nation about sexual harassment and accusations of individuals. That was still the big theme going on. It's been going on for a couple of years now. Why didn't it come out then? Why not destroy him then so Luther Strange would have been able to get the nomination? We could have gone into a general election with Republican versus Democrat and not have an issue in any way, shape, or form. Why now? Because it's 3 weeks out from an election for a general election. The establishment is still fuming of the fact that Roy Moore beat Luther Strange in the primary. The Democrats are fuming that it's still a deep red state of Alabama and that they could not win a Senate seat there, and they're desperate to do whatever they can. So you know what they do? They go to the lowest, sleaziest politics that you have, which is tainting someone's name, making the accusation, attacking their character rather than the issues, not making it about the issues, and then hoping for a win then. Progressives, the lowest of the low when it comes to dirty politics. We'll continue this. We got some calls as well. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Mid-America Network.
You know what's really unfortunate about this entire situation with Roy Moore in Alabama? We are in a special election for a U.S. Senate seat, a United States Senate seat, and we're not talking about issues. We're not talking about policy. We're not talking about ways that Roy Moore or the Democrat are able to actually advance one agenda or another. It's all sensational politics now. Do you support him and back him because you believe him in the sense that he didn't do any sexual allegations, or do you believe that he's an evil, dirty guy that just used to touch teenagers, 14-year-olds, 16-year-olds, while he was in government, thinking that he's a high and mighty white privileged type of individual to be able to get away with it because he's in a political power position. And that's the argument now. We're not talking about policy when it comes to an election. And the progressives, if you look at the trends, are the ones that do that very, very well. Are they not? Let's not talk about the issues because they lose on the issues every time they do. Because people, especially in a deep red state like Alabama, are never going to go for a progressive Bernie Sanders style socialist mentality in any way, shape, or form. And the fact that the Democrats, that's kind of their movement now, what they're beginning to form into is the socialist party of the country. The progressives and the establishment, the big government governing socialist group, if that's who they are, they're never going to win like that in a state like Alabama. So what are they going to do? Let's attack the character. Let's go after the individual. Let's demonize them. Let's taint their name. Let's ruin their reputation because we're not going to stand to lose against someone like that. It's a very easy thing to do. And that's where we've come now in politics. I wish. And at the end of the conversation, by the way, last night on social media, I got the individual that I was arguing with to agree with me that sensational politics like this is low and sleazy. He still wouldn't admit that he just didn't like Roy Moore, so he wanted to easily assume that this individual had done all these things, as opposed to, well, yeah, innocent until proven guilty. Yeah, you know what? I don't know. I wasn't there. And other than just the allegations and just someone saying it, there's really no proof about it. But you know what? That's already tainted his name in the public opinion, so therefore he has to overcome that. Why does he have to overcome that? Why wouldn't it be hey, you know what? There's evidence of this, or I'm going to make these accusations, but I'm going to do it in a manner that's not just a few weeks from in a major election that has been already divided and divisive from the get-go, even during the primary. Let's go to the phones here, shall we? 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK here. Good morning. What's your name?
This is Pete.
Hey, good morning, Pete.
Good morning. You know, take a walk with me here intellectually. think about this. If Roy Moore did these things, he would be a pedophile.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing we know about pedophiles is they don't stop. They keep doing what they do. So where are the women from 5 years ago, from last week, from
Sure.
10 years ago? This whole thing is a manufactured smear job.
Yeah, you would think,
women
especially
ought to
with
be
how.
invested.
Yeah, you're right. With how powerful Roy Moore has been and how long he's been in politics, if you are a quote-unquote pedophile and you've gone after teenage girls when you were in your 30s and you got away with it, it would have been a continuous action, regardless of how long you've been married. And I think that him and his wife have been married for a good long time. His wife would have found out about it, unless she's one of those Hillary Clinton types that just allow it to kind of happen. But he would have continued on this type of action even into his 50s and 60s, where he is right now. Maybe not nearly as often, but he still would have done it because he's been able to get away with it. So you're right. Where have been the women from just a few years ago, from 5-10 years ago, said, yeah, you know what? Yeah, that's actually not every girl that's been like, it was 20-25 years ago when this actually happened.
Exactly. I think it would be very interesting if someone were to look into the background of these women and start looking at their cell phone records and their bank records and find out who's paying them off.
Well, that would be a question. I know Roy Moore has threatened, or he's filed to sue the Washington Post that ran with this story originally, and to go after these women, because he's saying again, I don't even know these women. Now, the story that just came out this morning, according to The Hill, Ted Cruz has pulled his support from Roy Moore, which I don't even blame Ted Cruz for the fact, just because, hey, you know what, politically, whether you're guilty or not, that's the accusation. Unfortunately, you have that public opinion of you now, so I need to distance myself from you, but I don't necessarily think it's true. Now, again, if he's guilty, prosecute him to the fullest extent of the law. Absolutely, because we're not going to deal with pedophiles. We're not going to deal with individuals who are groping other women, Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, John Kerry, any of these individuals, including Republicans. We're not going to deal with it and prosecute him to the fullest extent of the law. But until we have proof and until you're found guilty, then to make these accusations from 20 years ago with no evidence, just to go after somebody's character, who, by the way, has built his entire platform on religious morality, for crying out loud. And again, you would think during the arguments in the state during religious morality is when these things would have come out to taint his name and destroy his reputation during those arguments. Why now? That's the question.
Well, that's absolutely the question. And the fact that the newspaper that broke this, the Washington Post, is anti-war. And, like you pointed out earlier, the lead accuser on this whole scandal is working for the opposition. I think that ought to scream volumes.
You would think so, but the ones that very easy to attack on personality and on character, they just piggyback with it without looking deeper into it, because now they just say, again, like the progressives do, and Pete, I appreciate the call, the way they look at it now is very easy for them is, oh, she's very courageous. As long as a woman will come out and make the accusation, whether it's true or not, whether it happened or not, they're courageous now. Regardless of that. So because of how courageous they are, we don't need to look any further into it. It's now guilty until proven innocent. We're going to destroy that character, go after him, and you just need to bow out, back off, and just not allow you to promote your agenda, because it's just bad, because now you're guilty.
For entertaining radio.
This is your fault, too, man. I keep missing Rush Limbaugh's morning update every morning because I'm listening to your show.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Hey, welcome back into the Voice of Reason right here on the Mid-American Network. Good Tuesday morning to you. We're making Tuesdays great again, baby. That's what we're all about. Welcome into it. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. In this segment, I do want to play a portion of our interview we had yesterday with Jake LaTurner, Kansas State Treasurer. on some of the things they're working on. We'll get to that in just a minute. But your thoughts and calls if you want to chime in on this Roy Moore deal. I've had it with sensational politics. It drives me nuts. I want to talk about issues. As you know, this show is issue-driven. It's policy-driven. We talk about the issues. We talk about the tax rates. We talk about facts. I don't want to go into, let's say, for example, the governor's race for Kansas coming up next year and be worrying about, it's going to be Republican versus Democrat because of something stupid about a sexual allegation, about the fact that someone may hate illegal immigrants, and the Republican, whoever that may be, is just a closed-minded bigot to an individual. I don't want to go down that road. I want to talk about issues. I want to win on an ideology. I want to win on an idea. I want to win on facts, because conservative versus progressive, not Republican versus Democrat here, but conservative versus progressive wins every single time, which is why they try and make it personal. And we're not going to sink to that level. We're just not going to do it. Now, again, if Roy Moore is guilty, then I want him punished to the fullest extent of the law, as I do every type of pedophile. I don't want them in society. But someone who has built their entire reputation, their entire career on divisive politics based on religious morality, for someone to come out not during the debates of the religious morality to discredit them in that sense, but to do it during a general election after beating an establishment Republican candidate in a primary in a deep red state where the Democrats are desperate to try and gain some momentum again, for it to come out then, it's very suspicious to me. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Let's go back to the phones here, shall we? Good morning. What's your name?
Hey, happy Tuesday.
Myron, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Good.
To keep it quick, listen to Ben Shapiro, and I think his assessment, it may be true. You have to consider that it may be true. You may consider it valid, but isn't it up to the voters of Alabama to choose whether they want to vote for him?
Sure.
I mean, McCain, all these other people, they were so glad to serve in the Senate with Ted Kennedy, who killed a woman. They're talking about, well, if Moore gets elected, we're going to start proceedings to unseat him. But Bob Menendez is on trial for corruption, and they're standing behind him. The voters, I think, of Virginia, kept sending good old Klansmen back to their. That's fine, but if you're a Democrat, raping people is an enhancement to your career. But if you're a Republican and 40 years ago, allegedly, you did something, oh, well, we've got to dump him. The Republican Party itself is helping the Democrats.
Well, you're right. You're right, and I mean, if that's the case of Ben Shapiro, man, I mean, that's a really good point. And the fact that, you know what, the morality level of elected officials in Washington D.C., that means very little to them. So the fact that he may have molested individuals and girls at that age. Do they necessarily want to be associated with that? No, not necessarily, but they don't really care what's going on behind the scenes because they're correct themselves to some way, shape, or form, to where they've done some, I wouldn't say molesting children or had to try to assault young girls, teenage girls or anything, but you're right. I mean, they work with KKK members. They work with people who have done shady things financially. They work with a lot of corrupt individuals in Washington, D.C. already. They don't necessarily look at that as a deal breaker in politics, but they're backing off and trying to call out Roy Moore to back down because of the fact that he is a solidly conservative individual based on conservative religious morality, which even many members of the Republican Party don't want to do anymore, who said he's going to work with Donald Trump. They see this as another notch of success under Donald Trump's administration if he gets elected to go in and advance conservatism to help promote conservatism under the Trump administration in Congress. And they don't want that. They are desperate to keep either an establishment Republican candidate, which is why they're advocating for Luther Strange to do a write-in run here for for this race now, or for the Democrat to be able to win, because even the Republicans, the establishment Republicans, would rather have a Democrat in there to help fight the Trump agenda than someone in there that actually goes against everything they stand for. So you're right, the morality thing at the federal level from the elected officials, they don't give a damn about what this guy has done or potentially has done one way or another. They only care about whether they're going to be able to promote their agenda, and if he has to have his reputation destroyed. Look, politics is a cutthroat business, and if they don't like your agenda, they will find a way to discredit you, to be able to hit you personally and hit your character, and that way discredit your idea from the public opinion all over the place.
Yeah, the biggest inconsistency that I see is 40 years ago, Moore allegedly did inappropriate things and stopped. All of them say he stopped when they told him to stop. Now you have a president who had raped, perjured himself, and had women saying they would give him a Lewinsky if he'd just keep abortion legal. That's their ethical standard as Democrat. But good grief, 40 years ago, you did something inappropriate, and when they said no, you quit.
Which, by the way, if you're going to go down that road, I mean, come on, if you're a molester, if you're a child molester in that sense, and you're going after teenage girls, and you start to get all heated up and you start to get excited because you're going down that road, and they just tell you to stop all of a sudden just because, you know what, it got too far, stop. Come on, if you're a real sicko who has done terrible things, you're not going to stop. That's when the rape case actually begins to happen. So none of the story even makes sense if that's the case, that they're going to go down and say, you know what, it actually didn't go full on. He didn't actually completely rape me because I asked him to stop and he stopped. Come on. It doesn't work that way. None of the story makes sense. And again, like we mentioned and like Pete mentioned before, is the fact that if he is a some kind of child molester in that sense, and he goes after teenage girls, then it wouldn't have stopped at 20 years ago. It would have continued on even while he was married. I don't know how long he's been married to his wife. His wife would have figured it out eventually, you would have thought. And having the fact that he's never been caught, no one's ever come out because of it, and he's in a piece of political power, and he is of that mindset, then he never would have stopped it, which means we would see people that would have come out a year ago, 5 years ago, coming out saying the same thing, and it's not happening.
Yeah, the ethical standard, it's been long enough ago, I'm not sure. I think it was a senator, but a senator or a congressman was taking male pages overseas with him and having sex. Everybody knew about it, but are we going to kick him out of office? I mean, these are pages who come to serve in the Congress. And he's taking them overseas and doing nasty things in my.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, look at who's coming out initially, and Rhonda on Facebook makes a good point here. The two people that came out, or three people really that came out, and I appreciate the call, Myra, in there immediately after this accusation happened. Immediately, within hours of the first accusation of the first girl that came out and said that Roy Moore tried to molest him, tried to go after him, tried to go after her, tried to do things with her, whatever the case is, or even just said that she looked pretty and she looked really nice, which I find funny because, I mean, especially down in the South, oh, how you doing, honey? Oh, you look sweet today. You look really pretty. I mean, when was it changed to where now it's a sexual accusation, a sexual assault to go after and say, hey, just to tell a girl that they're pretty, first off? Not try anything, but just say that you're pretty, that you look nice. I mean, didn't that used to be a compliment? Didn't that used to be for guys just to, hey, you look really pretty today? Just as a compliment to make them feel good, because that's just what you do. Now, wasn't that the first accusation? I forget what the first one actually was, the claim that he actually raped her or touched her or tried to sexually assault her, or was it just that he said that she looked really pretty? In front of her parents, too, if I remember correctly. Because that's just the culture and what you do. Now, again, if he is guilty, persecute him to the fullest extent of the law. But we need to go through the due process. The fact that we're ignoring due process to attack somebody's character right off the bat without any type of evidence, and now all of a sudden his name's tainted. And we've shifted the discussion from the Senate race, the special election race in Alabama, from issues. He believes in conservatism. He believes in religious conservatism, as opposed to the Democrat who wants to fight that type of mentality. And we're not talking about those issues. Now it's just whether he's a child molester or whether he's not. That's the question. That's what everybody wants to worry about. It drives me nuts because now we've gone to sensational politics. When is it okay that if you would disagree with somebody that you just attack their character? It's unbelievable. But the three people that came out directly after hours after the first accusation happened? Mitch McConnell, John McCain, and Mitt Romney. What do they all have in common? Mitch McConnell, John McCain, and Mitt Romney, the first three that came out just within the first day of the first accusation. They said, oh, this guy's a child molester. He went after teenage girls while he was in his 30s. He needs to bow out of the race. He needs to back out right now. We can't have someone like that in the Senate. It wasn't even the Democrats that went after him like that and called for his removal. They did eventually, but immediately after, Mitch McConnell, John McCain, and Mitt Romney, all three of those individuals, yeah, we got to get rid of this guy. Can't do that. Oh, we can't be supporting a guy like this. Oh, we can't have this guy in the Senate. He needs to back out. He should have disclosed this stuff beforehand. We could have had Luther Strange in there because we really liked him because he was more of a moderate Republican, more of an establishment type individual who's already been in Washington, D.C. We already have a bit of a working relationship with him. We need to have him back on. Roy Moore, you need to back out. Cannot believe the people of Alabama actually nominated him for the primary. Cannot believe that we went down that road. Mitch McConnell, John McCain, and Mitt Romney. Give me a break. And if you're going to listen to those three individuals on morality and the ones that do the right thing in Washington, D.C., then we have a whole different issue to discuss here. And what's the media report when they see that? Oh, Mitch McConnell, John McCain, and Mitt Romney, they all came out and advocated for Roy Moore to step down. If that's the case, then you know what? The Republicans unifying in a unifying voice, in a bipartisan unifying voice to ask Roy Moore to step down from the race. Oh, the Republicans. The Republicans are the ones advocating for Roy Moore to step down. It must mean that it's true, right? It must mean that it's actually happening. It's sick. Sensational politics drives me nuts. I like issues. I like substance. I like facts. I like numbers and percentages, and that's what I want to debate. And the fact that the Senate race, a federal position, has lacked that now, and now we have an accusation to destroy someone's character with no evidence whatsoever makes me extremely sad. Your thoughts and calls on this and more when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason on the Mid-America Network.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. We didn't get to, unfortunately, the interview that we had with Jake Latourneau, the Kansas State Treasurer. We'll have to air that tomorrow. That's all right. Lots to get to. Too many things. Too many fun conversations. Appreciate all the calls. We love it. If you do want to chime in, 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. I am really, really, really excited about some of the guests that we have coming up on the show here soon in the next month or so. Throughout the next month. It's going to be a great time. Tomorrow, and we'll re-air it on Thursday morning for the first hour for our other listeners. But tomorrow in the 8 o'clock hour, if you to get a chance to listen via the Facebook Live feed or the TuneIn app or some kind of streaming, or if you're in the local area here in Wichita, tomorrow we're going to be talking with nationally syndicated radio host and owner of Infowars.com, yes, Alex Jones. We will be chatting with him at 8 o'clock. Again, we'll re-air that interview coming up on Thursday morning in the first hour for everybody. But Alex Jones will be joining the show coming up in December. Now, I have officially, it hasn't happened in the 3 years that I've been here, 2.5 years that I've been here. I am actually going to be taking a week-long vacation, almost a week long. I've never done this before. I'm a little nervous stepping away from the microphone for that long and the operational duties, but I'm really excited to be able to get out. We're going to go back to Ohio. That's going to be the second week in December. The first week of December, on Friday, December 8th. I am so excited about this. Former senator, a former head of the Heritage Foundation, now working with the Convention of the States movement, Senator Jim DeMint, is going to be in studio for the 8 o'clock hour on Friday, December 8th. We just got that confirmation as of first thing this morning or late last night, and I'm really excited about having Senator Jim DeMint, not just on the show, but in studio with me almost for an entire hour. I'm really excited about that. So some really, really cool things that are happening with the program and some really great people that we're talking with. Again, Alex Jones tomorrow. And again, if you like Alex Jones, don't like Alex Jones, you have to admit, and from a broadcasting standpoint, I have huge respect for Alex Jones in that sense. Now, I don't necessarily agree with everything that he says, and I think he takes it to a level that I wouldn't necessarily go to, because just like this sensational politics, I am about the facts. We love debating the facts. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theory tinfoil hat wearing individual, which is why this is a fun conversation talking about Roy Moore and the sexual allegations, because I don't fall into conspiracy theories. I love listening to them. I love entertaining them, but I don't necessarily believe in a lot of conspiracy theories. And some say that's where Alex Jones goes as well. I say that I would agree majoritively with what Alex Jones says. But sometimes, and I wouldn't disagree with them as well. So, but Alex Jones is a very entertaining host. He is a very excited host, and a lot of people love you either love Alex Jones or you think he's a nut job. But you got to give him respect for his broadcasting talent and with the entertaining program that he actually has on. So we're going to be talking with Alex Jones tomorrow at 8 o'clock. You're not going to want to miss that. We'll re-air the interview in the first hour on Thursday morning, and you can tune in there as well. So really excited about that, and then extremely excited for Senator Jim DeMint, former Senator Jim DeMint, to come on the program on Friday, December 8th. You're not going to want to miss that. That's going to be in studio as well. So lots to get to there. Along with, we've been starting to book a lot of these state legislators that are going to be coming on the show here over the next couple of weeks and talking with them, getting ready for the legislative session. I also have it locked in a couple of the governor's candidates for the state for the Republicans, and we'll get more of those scheduled. I want to at least get all of them on before the end of the year, getting ready for their views. I want to get their thoughts on going into this legislative session. I want to know exactly what their thoughts are on the way this session should be done. What should be accomplished? What should get done in this legislative session? I want to hear from them before we begin it. I want to get their thoughts on what they anticipate and what they expect to be coming out of the legislative session in Kansas this year. So lots to get to over the next couple of months. I know that this is the time where we kind of tune out a little bit when it comes to politics because, well, the family's here and the holidays are here, and I don't want to focus on this. It's really, really important. I promise you, don't miss the show as much as you possibly can, because we are going to be talking to some really cool people and some really fun interviews coming up in the next month. Along with the fact, again, the second week of December, I will actually be taking some time off. I've never done it before. I've taken off like one day here and there. I think I've taken like 3 days off this entire year. I just don't like to do so, just because of the work that I have to do here outside of the radio show, but also the radio show itself. There's too much to talk about. There's too many things going on. I don't like to step away, but I'm going to do it. I'm finally going to go back, have a little time with the family the second week of December. You'll get some really great guest hosts, though. You're not going to want to miss that either. This is your show. It's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. Bring some reason back into politics. No more sensational politics. No more populist politics. Let's bring it back to facts, reason, and common sense. That's what we're all about here. This is The Voice Reason. Stay here.
It's time for Reason.
Yes, yes, and yes. They should be scared. They should be absolutely petrified of the fact that we are talking about trying to change the Constitution, because this is their loophole. Now, what we have to do, Republicans, you have to rally around one singular movement. You have to create the amendment in order to change the suitable funding phrasing in the Constitution. You have to be able to do it.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Good morning to you. Welcome into The Voice of Reason right here on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM. It's a Tuesday. It's time to make Tuesdays great again. That's what we're all about, baby. Welcome into it here. I got to say, I love this weather, by the way. Looking outside, the dreariness. It's a little bit cool. Not cold, but it's cool. It's in the mid-50s. Kind of perfect weather right now. It's foggy. It's overcast. It's drizzly. It's misty. I love this weather. This is what energizes me. This is what gets me pumped up and excited. Hopefully, I know it's hard in the morning, though, trying to get up, because you just want to go back to bed after this. You want to curl up and just go back to bed. But that's what I'm here for, baby. It's time to wake you up. Let's carpe diem. Let's get excited about the day. Let's get pumped up, because we have so much to get to here that we never have time to get through all of it as well. Welcome into it. 721-825-5721 If you want to join into the program, you are more than welcome to do so. Coming up in hour number 3, I'm really excited to kind of prolong the Veterans Day holiday, which we did briefly talk about on the show, but Veterans Day being over the weekend, they kind of celebrated it on Friday. Hopefully you were able to get a poppy seed plant, one of the plastic ones at the gas station. I didn't see anybody handing those out this week or this year, and I don't know why. Maybe I missed it, but I really hope that you were able to obtain one. If you remember the story behind that, let me know, because it's a great story. I remember it. I love it. I love the story of the poppy seed plant. A lot of people don't remember that, though. But coming up in hour number 3, we're going to be talking with Robert Fowler, author of the book The Gun Club, talking about his father, who was on a U.S. naval ship during World War II, one of the first ones to head to Japan. So looking forward to hearing about that story a little bit and kind of doing the remembrance for Veterans Day on the show today, coming up in hour number 3. Lots to get to. If you do want to chime in on the Roy Moore debate, you're more than welcome to do so. I want to shift gears just a little bit, but the sensational politics drives me nuts. And it's already happened here in Kansas. I realize that, because politics has become low and dirty like that. Let's attack the character as opposed to the idea. And that's what we've seen for a long time now. And it's happened even here on the local front and in the statewide politics. So we'll touch on that here in just a minute and get your thoughts and calls on it. We have, as we mentioned, the legislative session starting in January. The governor's race really going to be heating up in the next month or so. The first debate is set for the Republican governors in February, I believe, like February 17th, middle of February. That's good. That's already set, locked in to go. It's going to be here in Wichita. So we'll have more information for you on that one as it gets a little bit closer. Let's go to the phones here, though, shall we? 721-8255, 721-TALK. Good morning. What's your name?
Scott.
Hey, good morning, Scott. How are you?
Well, I think it's embarrassment to the city of Wichita for them to have a citizens review board with no power to do anything. I mean, I don't even think that the city manager should be the only one allowed to pick a member of the city a review board. I think the city council and the mayor should have an input as well on people who's going to be on this citizens review board of the police. But I mean, I guess it's typical that, you know, the police want to have power over the people, but they're really shunning people having power over them, even though they work for the people.
Well, you're right. They do work for the people. I do agree that, I mean, I like the fact that we have a citizens committee there to kind of hold the accountability. And you're right. Maybe we need to work on a little bit more power for those. I do agree, though, that the law enforcement, I mean, they do have power over the people because they're the ones that enforce the rule of law.
Yeah, but people have power over law enforcement because they work for us, just like the city council does, just like the legislators does, just like the governor does. They work for the people.
Sure.
Now, the only ones that are real shaky on that is bureaucrats. Now, bureaucrats definitely don't work in the interest of the people. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a city manager and the police themselves who, in their bureaucracy, are trying to do their own agenda and not work for the people.
Well, a lot of those, now the city manager doesn't necessarily have an election, but and Scott, I hate to let you go. We're getting some crazy feedback there, but I would say that, I mean, the city council gets elected. We just had the election coming up, and we'll have another election in a few years. We have the mayor that's elected. We have the city. I mean, we work in unison in that sense. We do have the Citizens Oversight Committee. I don't know how much power or lack thereof that they have, but I am glad that we actually have one. Now, if you feel that we need more power and influence on there, then let's absolutely advocate for that. I got no problem with that at all, because you're right. I mean, the city works for us. The law enforcement works for us. Now, at the same time, they work over top of us because, again, they enforce the rule of law. But you're right. We need to hold everybody accountable for the actions that you believe may be corrupt or may be dirty or may be low in some way, shape, or form. I don't have any examples of that right now, but if you do feel like you need some, then absolutely. I mean, advocate for the ability for the Citizens Committee to be able to have a little more influence at the city level. And I'm glad that we have one in the first place, whether it's new, whether we've had that for a while. I think that's a great opportunity for us to be able to have a voice. And if you want to advocate for more power, all the power to you, my friend. I got no problem with that whatsoever. 721-8255-721-TALK. Appreciate the call there, Scott. Great conversation. We are, by the way, going to be having on Mayor Jeff Longwell. He's going to be coming on probably in the next week or so just to welcome in the new city council members after the election that we had last week. And now that we've talked to some of the city council members along with the mayor, then we'll have them on a semi-regular basis-ish to be able to give some updates on the city and what's going on with some of the investments, what's going on with some of the issues at the city level, and what's happening in the community. It is important to keep a tab on that. So we will be having them, on a little more frequently when it comes to city issues. Let's go back to the phones here, shall we? 721-8255, 721-TALK. Good morning. What's your name? Nope, I guess we lost him there. Let's go back to the phones. Take another one, call line number 2, and we lost that one too. That's all right. Give me a call back. I don't know why you're dropping off, but if you do want to talk, you're more than welcome to do so. Sensational politics drives me nuts. As we talked about in the first hour, I do not like politics being taken away from the issues. Now, we need to find a way to make the issues emotional to people, because we find out that we have a higher turnout of elections. We have a higher turnout for people to go to the voting booth when people are emotionally connected to a candidate or to an issue, and that helps to some degree. I don't like that fact because I don't like being emotionally attached in any way, shape, or form. Politics, and as conservatives, you and I know this, politics shouldn't be about emotion, but should be about nothing but the cut and dry facts in order to be able to grow society, be able to make society safer, be able to make the community better, being able to actually keep government restrained and restricted. That's what government should be, and that's what elections should be. End of story. No emotion involved. Because once you involve emotions, just like in relationships, emotion can taint your view and the perspective of the issue. If you really like a girl in high school or shortly thereafter in college, if you really like somebody and they treat you like junk just because you really like them and you're emotionally attached, doesn't mean that it's a healthy relationship. And you know those people, the ones that try and cling on and try and change everything about themselves just to be able to try and mirror who they think they like because they never want to lose them. And that's not healthy in any way, shape, or form. It's the same way with elections. If you're emotionally driven, then regardless of what this individual does, if you like their policies, you look the other way. Sensational politics. And that's the way it's been done for a long time. And the progressives are masters at this game. I would say that they're masters at playing that in the relationship sense as well, because they know they control the power. Women, and nothing against women in this sense in any way, shape, or form, but women in the women lib movement, the women's rights movement, which again, I'm all for empowering women. My wife is a very strong-willed woman. That's what attracted me to her, because she's not going to take any crap from me. I'm the man of the house when she lets me be that. She's a very strong-willed woman, and that's what I found attractive. That's what attracted me to her. I love that. And I've encouraged her in any career path that she's wanted to go. She wanted to be, if she wanted to go down this road and start a new business venture, I encouraged that. If she wanted to go and work a certain place and move up the corporate ladder, I encouraged that. If she wanted to stay home and raise our daughter, which she has chosen to do now, I encourage that as well. Whatever she wants to do, I encourage that. Not I've allowed it. I've encouraged it because we're a partner, we're a group, and we move forward in that sense together. In politics, the same ones that are advocating for the quote-unquote women's lib, in my opinion, are the same ones that we're seeing the Roy Moore accusations come from, because it's very easy, and they've sensed weakness and a flaw in society. And it always takes a while for conservatives to rebound from this. In the Roy Moore case in Alabama, the progressives found the loophole. And again, if Roy Moore is guilty, we'll punish him to the fullest extent, and we need to be able to do so. But I find it very ironic that the one holding up religious morality in society and has actually stepped down from the courts in the state of Alabama twice because of it, this is the accusation they're coming after here to try and demonize him. And they didn't do it during the religious arguments in Alabama when he was very divisive, only now when he is running for U.S. Senate. But they found the loophole. They found the loophole in college students. They found the loophole with Bill O'Reilly. They found the loophole with Sean Hannity. Now, again, they may be very guilty in their case, but it's very easy now, and the progressives have found the loophole to go after the character of an individual. And I don't like that. Here in the state of Kansas, we see them go after the character of an individual. Governor Brownback, they say they go after his policies, but they can't actually go after the policies. I saw another story today as the headline that Republicans want a failed system at the federal level, the same as they want in Kansas. They continue to rail on this when they don't bring any real fact or reason to the discussion, just the fact that Governor Brownback is a horrible individual. He implemented conservative trickle-down policies, which, by the way, we've discussed trickle-down economics. It's a ridiculous observation anyways, but he's a terrible person. He advocated for trickle-down economics. He advocated for lower taxes. It failed miserably, and he despises children because he's cut education funding year after year. These are their arguments. It tries to be substantive, but they also go after his character, that he just doesn't know what he's doing. He's a terrible human being. The same that they've done with Chris Kobach. Chris Kobach, with his issue on voter fraud, now is a terrible white supremacist human being that has partnered up with Donald Trump and that hates people of brown skin, because he's going after voter fraud, a.k.a. he's trying to restrict individuals who are not born here, other people coming from Mexico or from down south in some way, shape, or form, and trying to restrict their voting. Voter suppression created by Chris Kobach because he hates people with brown skin. They've sensationalized those politics rather than arguing about the substance. If you don't like the fact that he's going after voter fraud, then counter him with the arguments that there is no voter fraud actually happening, which is very funny to try and discredit, because he's already found cases here in the state of Kansas. They found, what did he say, that's just a week after, just a few days after they've started the election commission at the federal level, they found like 5,000 cases of people voting multiple times or voter fraud in some way, shape, or form in one state. One of the states that actually did release the public information to the committee, the commission, to be able to review these things. 5,000 cases that they're trying to persecute right now. They're trying to go after. Why don't they discredit that? No, just Chris Kobach hates brown people. Sensational politics, discredit the character, go after the individual as a character. You hear Antifa, you hear the progressives right now. If you support Donald Trump, then you are nothing more than a racist, white, bigoted, white supremacist, neo-Nazi, homophobe, Islamophobe, yada, 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 yada. So therefore, you should not be listened to, and you should be discredited in any way, shape, or form, because we will not listen to you. You will not be paid attention to. You will not be taken seriously because we don't like your stance. This is sensational politics. The progressives are masters at this game, and we're not going to allow it to happen anymore. We're really not. Let's go to the phones here. 721-825-5721. Talk. Do you think that this is happening in society, and do you think this has been the downfall of politics? I think that this is the downfall of politics that's been happening for a long time. Sensational politics, playing the identity card, playing racism, playing identity politics in some way, shape, or form, and then discrediting the character of the individual as opposed to their ideas. Try and compete on the ideological level. You'll lose every time. But it's not going to happen because they know they're going to lose every time. So they go after the character of the person. They go after the individual as opposed to the idea. Let's go to the phones here, shall we? 721-8255. Good morning. What's your name?
Hello, this is Gary.
Hey, Gary. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, Andy. Hey, the sensational politics, it seems like it's just one-sided, though. It's only reserved for the Republicans. If they do something unsavory, then it's, oh my gosh, they need to be removed immediately.
Right.
But the Democrats, and take Bill Clinton, for instance, there was a greater age gap between him and Monica than there was between the purported victim and Judge Roy Moore.
True. And when we call a name, we call it because there's actually a basis behind it, because I don't like to be a name caller. I don't like to just say, well, you're stupid. And, I don't like to do that because I like to have a little more substantive discussion. When we call Bill Clinton a creep, there's a reason for it, because we know that there have been multiple sexual allegations against him that have been reported with actual evidence. When you call Roy Moore a creep, then you're showing your ignorance, because, yeah, there's an accusation, but where's the evidence, and has he been tried in the due process of the rule of law to show that he's actually been accused and he's actually a creep in that sense, that the law has found guilty? Or are you just using the politics of the day, the sensational politics, to feel good about going after somebody because you just feel that he is without any type of evidence?
And the thing that just amazes me is how all the rapes, he raped women, and yet still he was not removed from office.
Mm-hmm.
and it's just, not only that, but Barney Frank. Barney Frank and his he's running some kind of prostitute. A known homosexual in Congress is not thrown out because of their activities.
And everybody looked the other way. Everybody looked the other way. Again, you're right. And the only reason I say that it's ideological, not party, is because many of the Republicans are going after other Republicans in that sense as well. The establishment Republicans who despise Tea Party conservatives, who despise the populist conservatives like Donald Trump, who despise the side that's actually gaining momentum right now, they've partnered up with the liberal progressive ideology to play the same sensational politics to go after the character of individuals, which is why I find it quite ironic that hours after the first allegation against Roy Moore, that it was Mitch McConnell, that it was John McCain, and it was Mitt Romney, the three Republicans that came out and asked Roy Moore to step down and advocated for him to remove himself from the election. It wasn't Democrats that did that first right off the bat. It was Republicans. So many establishment Republicans are the ones that are actually advocating for the same sensational identity politics as what Democrats are.
And they are the establishment Republicans. They're the elite. They're the good old boys. They've had run things their way for decades now, and they don't want it changed. And or just might help change that. Him and President Trump, they're working to change that. So he is a big threat. Did you see the Sean Hannity interview with the radio interview with Judge Roy Moore?
I did not, no.
Oh, darn. Well, the only thing that gave me pause was when Sean Hannity was asking, is this something that you would do? And he said, no, not normally. And that's a paraphrase, and I'd have to go back and re-listen to it again. But it just kind of cracked the door open like, oh, geez, you mean, can't you just unequivocally say no?
Yeah, well, and it sounded like he did just recently. He came out and said, I have never done anything of these sexual allegations before. In the most recent, the number 5 that just came out yesterday or whatever, that said that he had touched her, that he tried to touch her chest, he tried to grab her neck, and he's like, I don't even know who this woman is. I've never even met her before. She says that he signed her yearbook, but I find it, again, quite ironic that he would go after a woman and then say, oh, please sign my yearbook because I'm a high school kid. I just don't see the correlation there at all. 25 minutes past the hour. Appreciate the call there. Gary, got to move on here. Get your thoughts and calls when we come back. Also, in this hour, we will be giving away our turkey drop of the day. Stay tuned in here in just a little bit. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, KQAM.
Bottom of the hour news coming up here. Went a little long in that segment. That's all right. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Sounds like someone disagrees with me on this take as well, with sensational politics and the Roy Moore case happening down in Alabama. We'll continue that conversation when we come back. Your thoughts and calls as well. Stay here.
Patriotism is alive and well. The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason right here on the Big Talker, KQAM. Appreciate you hanging out with us today. It's a Tuesday. Let's make Tuesdays great again. That's what we're all about here, right? Yeah, that's what we do. 721-8255-721-TALK. This portion of The Voice of Reason brought to you by Network of Consultants, business owners. I know you have all your different computers, your different programs that you run on your computers. Maybe you have shared folders on your network, and things can go haywire sometimes. Computers crash. You need to replace computers. Maybe your network is not communicating the way you need to. Maybe your backups are not working. Maybe you're afraid of different fraud or people hacking in and compromising your information. Network consultants can help you with all that and more. They work on your firewalls and sonic walls, database safety and security, network communication, VPN, backup solutions, even getting you set up on the cloud. You have different programs. You have the network, you have multiple computers, and when that stuff goes haywire, it costs more money to fix them than it does to actually maintain them. That's where network consultants can step in and help you. Give them a call, tell them that I sent you. You'll get a free network analysis. They'll come visit your business, review your system, help you any way that you can, even help guide you to manage your own network. They do have month-to-month plans available. You do not have to do long-term agreements. All you got to do is make the phone call and tell them that I sent you here on The Voice of Reason. 316-201-4624, 316-201-4624, or visit network-consultants.com. Again, network-consultants.com. Appreciate you them hanging out with us here on The Voice of Reason. Nathaniel on Facebook. Andy, you're not doing conservatives any favors by continuing to defend Moore as you are. This isn't a criminal trial. It's an election. We don't have to try him in court for to form an educated opinion about the evidence we have at hand, which is a lot. Come on, at some point you can't just dismiss them as being lies and not evidence. Arguing he should be persecuted if guilty is absurd. The statute of limitations has long since passed on any crimes. This is an election. If it were as innocent as a newborn baby, his campaign is dying and fast. He needs to drop out and go away. Let the GOP have some chance of salvaging the election. Well, they're not going to. And I get where you're coming from, but first off, if he drops out now, they will not win the election. Even if Luther Strange steps in as a write-in, Roy Moore will be on the ballot. It's already too late to remove him from there, which, again, why I find the red flag popping up as convenience on the timing of this. If he drops out, he'd still be in the race on the ballot. Luther Strange would have to be a write-in, and you're never going to win. It will be a lockstep 100% defeat for Republicans without question, with Democrats winning. And I think we're missing the point just a little bit here. It's bigger than Roy Moore. It's bigger than this, and that's why I'm not defending him and the potential actions that he may have done here. If he's wrong and if he's guilty, then yes, go after him. Yeah, he's got a statute of limitations, but yes, then discredit him, go after him, and make sure that he pays for what he has done. If he had done it. I haven't seen a whole lot of that solid evidence, and the only thing that I've seen is that it's been convenient timing. Look, he has been a brass, divisive figure in politics in the state of Alabama for a really, really long time that has stepped down from the state courts twice because of his quote-unquote conservative religious values and defending the Ten Commandments at the courthouse. Why, during a religious argument in Alabama, has none of this come out before to say, yeah, you know what, we're going to question your religious religious morality here because you're trying to fight for the Ten Commandments, because you believe in that, because you're extremely religious, then we're going to discredit you in that sense and make sure you never hold the state's courts again. That's my big number one concern of the big red flag. Why didn't it come out during the religious arguments in the state? But this is bigger than Roy Moore, which is why I've mentioned the words sensational politics, identity politics, because if we allow them to win right now, if we allow Roy Moore to step aside and say, you know what, he's saying that this never happened, none of this ever happened, and if it comes out to, at the end of the day, the truth always comes out, at the end of the day, if he ends up bowing out because he's got that bad reputation, and that's the only reason why he steps aside, we have given everybody the chance for any election, anywhere in the country, at any time, to right before the election make an accusation, to question the character of that individual, and to defeat them, not based on merit, not based on issues, not based on policies, but based on the character of that individual and the demonization of them. We have allowed this to completely go away from issues in all the sense of the word of politics. No more will you hear during an election time about tax rates. No more will you hear about values and family values. No more will you hear about government spending or government programs. You'll hear that at the beginning, but then a month before an election, if someone's ahead in the polls, if someone doesn't like that, if it's a really close race, all you have to do, throw in the accusation of sexual harassment. Throw in the accusation that they were doing something under the table. Throw in the accusation that it doesn't have to be even substantial. It doesn't have to be merit-based. All it has to do is be an accusation. Taint their name, taint their reputation, and they lose the election. How is that good for the political system? How is that good? Let's just say that we go into the general election next year for the governor's race. So we have the Republican and the Democrat, and it's a tight race. The Republican trying to distance themselves from Governor Sam Brownback, trying to say that we're going to move in a different direction a little bit. We're still going to hold conservative values, but we're going to do it in a different way from Brownback. The Democrat trying to piggyback on that, saying that Brownback and conservatives have failed, and we're going to go a different direction. And we're really divided on this, that we've waken up enough people to say, you know what? Brownback actually wasn't the most terrible guy that hated puppy dogs and children, as much as the media tries to say that. And we need to actually do something substantial here. We need to continue to keep taxes low because I'm seeing 3 different tax hikes in 2 years. And I don't want to see that any longer. So we're having that debate. Then all of a sudden it gets down to, September, October before the election. Bam! Sexual allegation comes out. Yeah, you know what? This person, when they were back in the day when they were just trying to get into politics, when they were a state legislator, let's say, I don't know, I'm not trying to accuse anybody of this in any way, shape, or form, but as an example, when they were in the state legislature, they were just beginning their career, or they were a city council member, or they were a county commissioner in their early political career. They ended up going after some young girl, sexually assaulting her. It was long ago. It was 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. But you know what now? Tainted name. That would completely change all the discussion of the debate. No longer would we have any type of rational discussion on issues, and that election would then be nothing more than about the people who believe this individual and wants to get rid of the corrupt, terrible human being that's trying to run for higher office, or the individuals that believe it's a falsehood and that try to back them. You've already seen the division happen with Roy Moore down there. This is going to be now the divisiveness to continue to the divide in the nation, not based on political ideology, but based on sensational politics. Whether you believe the person, and it's all just he said, she said. Whether you believe them and you want to stand with them just because that you think they're being unfairly attacked, or you don't like them and you stand with the opposition only for the sole fact that you believe that they're guilty. How is that good for the political system? That is why I defend Roy Moore. Not in the sense that I don't know whether he did it or not. I don't know. It makes no difference to me right now. I think that if he did, then we need to not do it during election time. Wait until either before he's running for office or when he first announces to kill it pretty quickly before even the primary, or do it after the election and try and continue this further and then make him step down. But to taint the name weeks before an election with such an easy accusation, to me, takes away any type of substance from politics. And that's the issue I have with this. Sensational politics is the most dangerous thing because we're at the lowest level. We have now turned politics into a reality TV show. It is going to be nothing more than a Kim Kardashian TV show about who you're going to vote for because either you believe that they raped them, or you believe that they had an affair, or you don't believe that they did. And that's all the politics is going to be. And it doesn't matter whether we're talking about a local election or a state election or a federal election. If next year for the midterms, Ron Estes runs for re-election and someone comes out and says that 20 years ago he tried to go after a woman, then that's all the issue is going to be about. The Democrats are going to jump on board with it and say that he needs to step out because he's a terrible human being, and the conservatives that believe him are going to stand with him and say that, you know what, he's not that kind of person. We know who he is personally, and it's a complete absurd accusation. But that's all the issue is going to be about. And that's what sensation politics is doing to us today, which is why I think this is the most absurd, ridiculous accusation to have. I personally believe that Roy Moore didn't do it, but right now my personal opinion doesn't matter. It's only the people in Alabama that are going to be voting for it. But again, look at how they're judging this election now. It's not about what he stands for. It's not about what the Democrat stands for. It's not about the tax rates. It's not about working with Trump. It's not about doing tax reform. It's not about building the wall. It's not about gaining jobs. It's whether you believe Roy Moore and that he's guilty and all this is fabricated, or you believe that they're correct with the women that are coming out with the accusation and that Roy Moore is guilty. That's all it is. It's a very slippery slope here, and if we allow it one single time, they've already done it with Bill O'Reilly. They've already done it with Bill Cosby. They've already tried to do it with Sean Hannity. They've already done it with numerous different college students, because all you have to do is that accusation. Heck with due process. Heck with the innocent until proven guilty. Make the accusation, question their character, degrade them, taint their name, and now they're done for their career, for their lifetime. It's a very simple process, and it doesn't matter whether it's happening locally or whether it happens federally. As soon as you allow it with an elected official, then every election after that has that potential for one person, whether it's true or not, to jump in last minute and say, oh, they assaulted me. They came after me. They treated me unfairly. They tried it with Donald Trump. How many women tried to come out and say that he assaulted them? How many people came out and said that he had treated them poorly in their business? How many Democrats tried to come out and accuse Donald Trump of not treating businesses properly or filing bankruptcy so he wouldn't have to pay them, or all these different bad business deals that he had done to treat people unfairly? They tried to turn it into sensational politics, and people rose above that because they didn't want to hear it, because they believed in what Donald Trump had to believe. But again, that election still didn't have anything to do with ideology, didn't have anything to do with issues. It had all to do with sensational politics, whether you like Donald Trump with what he's going to do or whether you dislike him because he's a racist, bigoted, homophobe, womanizer who just wants to get more power. That's really what the election came down to. I'm sick of sensational politics, which is why I'm defending Roy Moore in that sense. Not the sense that whether he did it or not, but the sense that if you allow it once, then it's very easy. And the progressives who love to play identity politics in the first place, they win every election after this because that's all they have to do is make that claim and accusation. With no substance, with no proof, with nothing behind it, no due process, which is what we usually have, innocent until proven guilty, until we prove that he's actually who they accuse them to be, but do it right during the heated election cycle, taint their name, and drive people away from them. I'm not going to allow that kind of politics to play, locally, statewide, or federally. That's the point that I'm making here. Because I guarantee you they may try that, especially if this comes to fruition and Roy Moore ends up losing or he backs out just because of that name and that reputation. Watch them try that here in the state of Kansas for the governor's race. Watch them try it. They're totally going to try that. Everything they can. If Chris Kobach, for example, gets the nomination, then it's going to be that he hates brown people, and they're going to use every example of that, of him being a racist and hating brown people. If Wayne Cartman gets the nomination, then he's going to be the terrible oil driller who treats people unfairly because he's a slave driver of a capitalist. If it doesn't matter if any candidate, if Jeff Collier gets the nomination, then it's going to be him hating sick people because he reformed CanCare, privatized it, and now people can't get the health care they need through Medicaid, so therefore he hates disabled and elderly people. They're going to play the identity sensational politics. And by the way, possibly throw in a sexual allegation to one of these candidates or another as well. I'm not going to stand for that. We need to hold ourselves to a higher standard, and even conservatives who may think that Roy Moore had done this and don't want that, we need to say, you know what, that's an issue for a later time. Let's get through the election, get the Republican elected, then go after him for sexual allegation, make him step down and get the replacement. That's the process that has to be done here, because if he bows out, we let the progressives allow them to beat us based on character, and then we have a Democrat filling a seat in the Senate, making it more difficult to actually do anything, because the Republican will not win if we try and do a write-in. Will not happen. It's that time, ladies and gentlemen. 721-825-571-TALK. We have done it every single day. We got a few more days to do this with 5 or 6 more turkeys to give away. It's the KQAM KGSO turkey drop. And I want the lines to light up here because, as you know, not everybody always wins the first round here, but it's your chance. 721-825-571-TALK. Here's how it works. I give you 3 options of one of the businesses that they have not dropped on as of yet. And you need to pay attention because once it gets closer, I'll start reusing some of the same businesses that have already been dropped on here. But I give you 3 options. You guess which one it is, and you win the turkey. You win yourself a Thanksgiving turkey, as Thanksgiving is next week already. So it's going to be a very fun process. So let's go ahead and take a caller here and see. By the way, we do want to thank our sponsors, all of our sponsors, with the KQAM Turkey Drop: Augusta Flight Center, Just Right Auto Repair, Best Friends Pet Clinic, MJ's Truck Repair of Mound Ridge, Kansas Croft Lumber of Heston, Kennedy Tire and Auto Care Center, Kiter Nursery and Firewood, Davis Liquor Outlet, Scott Child's Old Time Clock Shop, Spears Restaurant and Pie Shop, and Derby Mattress. We do want to thank as well Jim's Apple Market at Cheney for providing us the turkeys. They're fantastic. We love them. Open 7 days a week there as well. So here it is. Let's take a caller. We'll give you 3 options, and you get to guess where the turkey's going to drop. Let's go to the phones here. Good morning. What's your name?
Rebecca.
Hey, good morning, Rebecca. How are you today?
Good.
Hey, very good. All right, here are your 3 options for today. It's already preordained, and all you have to do is get a 1 in 3 chance of winning this. The options are Derby Mattress, Scott Child's Old Time Clock Shop, or Davis Liquor Outlet. Which one do you, Rebecca, think that the turkey's going to drop on today?
Scott Child's.
Scott Child's Old Time Clock Shop. The helicopters flying above Actually, I think it's a drone now. Helicopter's kind of old school, 21st century. The drone's dropping the turkey. The turkey's going to drop. Will it be? Bam! Right off the bat, Rebecca, you end up winning the turkey today. Nice. It's been a while since they've won the first time round. Scott Child's Old Time Clock Shop was the answer today. Rebecca, you just won yourself a turkey for Thanksgiving. Stay on the line and we'll get your information here in just a second. We got another one coming up tomorrow. You're not going to want to miss it. This is The Voice Reason. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Sensational politics is not what we're about. We're better than that. Let's rise above it, ladies and gentlemen, because we're not going to stand for something like that. These allegations, the character of an individual need to be known before an election, or if it comes out after an election, then we need to go after them in that sense. Again, I don't know whether Roy Moore did it or not. I don't know. It's not about that. It's about if these accusations happened, why didn't it come out when he first announced to run for Senate? Why didn't it come out before the primary? Why didn't it come out during the religious arguments? Being a religious individual and accusations like that would have discredited him like that. The first time that he stepped down from the state Supreme Court. That's what would have happened. They would have discredited him then. He never would have seen political office again. Why didn't it happen then? I'm scared. So what encouraged you now? The fact that everybody's doing it around the country because that's the sensation to do? That's the populist thing to do? Give me a break. Again, I don't know whether he did it or not, but none of it adds up to me. None of it does. And I don't want to see that as the national theme of politics from here on out because we're already going that way. The young generation, the millennials, they already care more about what Kim Kardashian's doing on the Kardashians or doing on her Twitter, than what the issues actually are. They know more about who the Justin Bieber or I don't even know some of the mainstream whoever because I don't listen to mainstream stuff. Drives me nuts. But let's just say they know more about what Justin Bieber is and where his tour's going than who's running for office in their local district. And if that's what we're going to turn politics into, then we might as well just write it off now and just not even look towards the future because we're going to have individuals voting based on some kind of accusation and some kind of drama. It's going to be some kind of soap opera on what kind of affair they're having and whether you believe with the affair, whether there's a love triangle going on with a candidate and an intern and the wife or whatever. It's going to turn into days of our lives during every election, and that's how people are going to be voting. I don't want to see that. Let's grow up a little bit. Let's talk about the issues. And again, if we allow it one time, then it's never going to stop until we figure out. Republicans, conservatives always have a longer time to try and figure out a way to rebut it and dismiss it and move on from it. And then by that time, the Democrats and the progressives have already found a new way to be able to bring in some type of new sensational politics. It drives me nuts. Congratulations, by the way, to Rebecca winning the turkey drop. We'll do another one tomorrow. We do have coming up in the third hour, we will be giving away Dave Ramsey's book, The Total Money Makeover. I am excited about doing that book giveaway today as well, brought to you by You Build It of Wichita. So we have a lot still more to give away, a lot of things to do. Plus, when we come back in hour number 3, we're going to revisit Veterans Day just a little bit as we salute all of our veterans. We're going to be talking with Robert Fowler, author of the book, The Gun Club. Really excited to chat with him as he wrote a book about his father who was involved in World War II and on a naval ship in Japan and some of the experience that he had with the research that he's done and what happened out there. Remembering our veterans for Veterans Day. It's a little late. I know that was Saturday, but still, you know what? We need to celebrate our veterans every single day, which is why it's still kind of important. So when we come back, Robert Fowler is going to be joining us. Looking forward to chatting with him. This is your show. It's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason, as there is a lack of that in the society today. This is The Voice of Reason. Hour number 3 coming up in a minute.
It's time for Reason.
Yes, yes, and yes. They should be scared. They should be absolutely petrified of the fact that we are talking about trying to change the Constitution because this is their loophole. Now, what we have to do, Republicans, you have to rally around one singular movement. You have to create the amendment in order to change the suitable funding phrasing in the Constitution. You have to be able to do it.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Good morning to you. Welcome into the Voice of Reason right here on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM. It is a Tuesday. We're making Tuesdays great again. That's what it's all about. Carpe diem all over this place is what we do. Advancing conservatism is kind of a bystander of that as well. I mean, come on, we show our conservatism based on our hard work and us going to work every day and just, trying to provide for the family and do that kind of stuff. Robert Fowler, author of the book The Gun Club, not able to join us right now. We'll try and get him on later, either later in the show or another day. So it's open lines to you this hour, 721-8255-721-TALK. If you do want to chime in, I do have a request. The sports station, our lovely brothers over there on the other side, they're on KGSO, their Facebook Live hits for the first time are higher than ours. This is unacceptable. So I do encourage, if you are able to like the Facebook Live feed, to share it onto your own page. Let's grow it. Let's make this happen, because right now they're beating us today. First time it's ever happened. First time it's ever happened with them beating us on Facebook Live. This is unacceptable. We cannot allow this when it comes to viewership on there. So go to the Facebook Live feed, like it, share it. Let's spread this out, because we have to dominate them, as we like to do in healthy competition. 721-8255-721-TALK. If you want to join in here, you're more than welcome to chime in. If you do want to comment on the discussion that we've had last hour, it's okay that we didn't have Robert Fowler on. We will get him back on the show. I do want to talk to him about his book, but it's okay because we've kind of gone off in a direction where I had not planned this in any way, shape, or form throughout the show. And there's a lot of stuff that we want to get to here that we have not had an opportunity to do so. So it gives us a chance to actually chime in and comment on some of this. And I do appreciate you tuning in for all this. It is an interesting conversation, isn't it? Sensational politics. It's really where we've gone. Now, populism has led to this level as well to some degree. And I would completely agree with that. And that's why one reason I was not the biggest fan of Donald Trump at the beginning was because of sensational politics and populism in that sense. So that was a concern that I had. But this has taken it to a whole nother level, and we're giving the tools to the opposition for a very easy accusation whenever they disagree. You know what? We can't beat them in ideology. We can't beat them with the vision that they have, especially in deep red areas or deep blue areas, even regardless of both sides, a deep area where they have a very good chance of winning because it's been historically true and the votership goes that way. So let's attack their character. Then people get upset, riled up, and they'll start leaving them in mass. And I don't want to do that. Now, here in Kansas, it's a predominantly red state. We have just under 3 million registered voters in the state, regardless of how many of them may be flawed or numerous duplicate votes or ones that they're not supposed to be having in the first place. That's an issue for Chris Kobach that we'll get on the show soon to talk about. But we have 3 million registered voters almost here in the state of Kansas, predominantly a red district, and the Democrats are fighting for a governorship position here. And for the first time in 2 decades, we actually have a primary for the Democrats in the state of Kansas. We'll talk about that one after we take some calls here. But for the first time in 2 decades, the governor's race has a primary for the Democrats, which is exciting for them. How's it going to pan out when it gets closer to the general election, and what's their platform going to look like in a red state? We have gone back and forth, Republican, Democrat from administrations in the governorship position. How are they going to approach the post-Sam Brownback era in the state of Kansas? It's going to be a very interesting election, especially for the Democrats, which will be very fun to be able to watch. We'll talk about that in a second here. Let's go back to the phone, shall we? 721-8255-721-TALK. Good morning. What's your name?
Nate.
Hey, good morning, Nate. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
Hey, I just want to drop a couple of quick thoughts on this.
Sure.
First of all, it seems that there's all these people coming out against Moore.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have that many come out against Bill Clinton, who's a known pervert in a huge way.
Right. And when we call him that, we actually have substance behind that to prove it, because it's open knowledge as opposed to an accusation without any proof.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's that, but then I also think, I think it's probably not the Democrats, I would suspect they're establishment Republicans, because they're the ones who have poured $10 to $30 million to his opponent, and they'd rather have a Democrat than him.
Exactly.
So
that's a good point.
You pay a woman, $20,000, $300,000, whatever it is her price is, and shoot, they can probably find those all over.
They'll say whatever they want to. You're right. I mean, as soon as the accusations came out, the three that said it within a day, within hours of the first accusation, was Mitch McConnell, John McCain, and Mitt Romney. All Republicans who said, yeah, you know what, we don't want someone like that in there. You need to drop out Roy Moore because we want Luther Strange back.
Well, it's not a new tactic. They also did it against Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas whenever he was running.
Sure.
So it's against conservatives, not establishment Republicans, because they don't care.
Sure.
They'll take them.
I completely agree, Nate. I mean, it's sad that we've gone to that level, but you're right. Even without due process, without innocent until proven guilty, to lay a bombshell like that in the middle of an election, and again, during a divisive election with an individual who's been divisive for a really, really long time in the state, to drop it now, it just seems very odd to me. And the reaction from it was Republicans distancing themselves and saying they need to drop it. Now, even Ted Cruz, the story from The Hill this morning said that Ted Cruz is pulling his support from Roy Moore as well, not necessarily because he believes whether he's guilty or innocent, but just because, and I agree with him, I mean, I totally understand, rightly so, that his name is now tainted because of that reputation, whether it's true or not.
Yep, and all they have to do is keep throwing people at it, and they go, oh, that many can't be wrong. Well, look at how many times they've done that. This isn't new.
I agree. Nate, I appreciate the call, my friend. You're spot on. It's concerning, and that's, again, why the sensational politics I don't like to play, because it's very easy to taint somebody's name, whether it's true or not, whether they're guilty or innocent, without the due process, without actually finding the evidence and the proof of it. You know what? Let's drop a bombshell during an election. Let's run their name through the mud, and let's harm them. Again, it's bigger than Roy Moore, and, I mean, Roy Moore, I mean, the voters of Alabama are going to have to decide one way or another whether they agree, whether they believe it. But again, look at the conversation. It's no longer about a tax rate or building the wall or working with Trump. It's whether you are divided between, I think he's a dirty old guy because so many women came out against him, or I'm going to support him because I believe it's all fabricated. It's now a politics. It's now an election based on sensationalism, as opposed to what are your platforms on both sides of the aisle. This is not the time to drop a bombshell like that. And neither needs to be before the election or after the election. Start an investigation and then remove him from office from there. But we had a caller last hour too that made the right point. Look at how many people are corrupt in D.C. They don't care about whether he's that type of individual or not. Look at who they work with on a daily basis. It has nothing to do with that. It's just the fact that they don't like him, because he is a conservative. He's a socially conservative individual. He wants to work with President Trump, and they see that as another notch of a non-establishment character that they won't have control over. So that's why they're advocating for them to be removed, not because of the actual actions that they have committed. Let's go back to the phones here, shall we? Good morning. What's your name?
Hey, Andy, Sean here.
Sean, what's going on, my friend?
Oh, I tell you what, this is pretty disgusting stuff. But, hey, you know what? I see a silver lining in this, so I'm not going to get too upset about it. You know why?
What's that?
Well, when this thing first broke with what's his name out in Hollywood? What was his name?
Weinstein.
Yeah, I knew he was just the tip of the iceberg, and this thing has been cascading down ever since. But now, here's the thing, though. None of these women, at least these celebrities out in Hollywood, got any proof that I know of that other than just accusations.
For Weinstein?
Well, no, I'm not just talking about Weinstein. I'm talking about everyone else that's been accused. Geez, I've lost count. How many now?
Well, and that's why I think we need to look at the specific incidences. Harvey Weinstein, we don't necessarily have any proof, but numerous women have come out, give explicit detail, and it was a known factor where they were joking about it on late night TV shows. They were joking about it at award ceremonies to where everybody knew it, and it was just kind of a common thing where they looked the other way. This came out of the blue to where 5 women have now come out and accused Roy Moore of this, to where no one got that from his mentality before. He's been married to his wife for a long time. And heck, he's the most divisive, one of the most divisive individuals in the state. I mean, he's like our Brownbacker Chris Kobach because he's such a social conservative. He had to step down from the courts twice in Alabama because he fought for religious rights and keeping the Ten Commandments in the courthouse. That is one of the most divisive things you can do in politics today. And you would think that someone being someone who attacks and goes after little girls would be attacked during their religious arguments in the state as opposed to now. Why
yeah, I
now?
know. That's why I say that some women can be telling the truth, but other women can be lying. They do that. It happens.
Sure.
This thing with Roy Moore is an outrage because of it coming out now a month before an election.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I like you don't know whether it's true or not. I suspect it's a lie, but here's the thing. This is a new trend. This is going to be the hip thing to do in the future against all Republican politicians. I mean, they did it to Herman Cain. Half a dozen women come out of nowhere and knock him right out of the race with the allegations of sexual harassment.
Sure.
You know, it's not a new tactic, but it's a tactic that hasn't been used very often. I mean, I watched the Senate confirmation hearings with Clarence Thomas and this alleged crap with.
They've tried it for a long time before, but they've been able to perfect it, so to speak, because now they have the timing down. They've been able to get the timing right in the sense that we know exactly when to make the accusation. Because right now, look, we're a month away from the election, or we were when the first accusation came out. The Republican establishment tried to advocate for him to be removed from the election, but by then you're already not able to remove him from the ballot. You'd have to do a write-in for Luther Strange, a Republican that he beat in the primary that was sitting in D.C. that was a little more establishment-esque. And Donald Trump endorsed Luther Strange at that time, but immediately after the primary said, hey, you know what, Roy Moore's going to be great. I endorse him now, and let's get him in here because you have to. But nowadays, if we do it right now, he'd be removed. His name would still be on the ballot. You'd have to do a write-in, and it would be a 100% lock, absolute guarantee for the Democrat to win this election if he officially dropped out. And the establishment, like we said, doesn't necessarily care because they'd rather have a Democrat working with them to stop the Trump agenda than trying to get in someone in there that they don't have control over that will work with Donald Trump, and it's harder for them to promote their agenda in the Senate. So they're okay. The establishment is weighing the options, and they actually see the benefit of having a Democrat win this race as opposed to a conservative that they don't have control over because right now the progressive Democrats and the establishment Republicans had the same agenda, and that is stop Donald Trump in every way they can.
Well, here's the silver lining. Okay, this is why the swamp's going to get drained, and it's even being drained right now, and that's they're going to overplay their hand, Democrats and the corrupt Republican establishment.
Sure, they're desperate.
Overplay their hand. You start accusing conservative Republicans running for office, every last one of them, of being sexually harassing or fondling a 14-year-old girl out in the boondocks.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to get wise to that crap pretty quick. And they're going to get ticked off, and they're going to go after the establishment that's doing this. And you know, they need to be torn limb from limb, and it's going to happen. Trust me. So I'm not like all defeated and demoralized over this. I'm angry about what happened to Moore.
And that's why conservatives are emboldened, and you're right. I mean, you're absolutely right. They're going to overplay their hand. We're going to call their bluff eventually with some of this stuff, whether it's this election or it's another elected official that they accuse this of. The ones that have been doing these types of dirty, shady, sleazy things for a long time, now accusing socially conservative religious individuals of the same thing. And again, I'm not defending Roy Moore if he did do these actions because he does need to be persecuted and be punished the way he needs to be if that did happen. I don't know.
I agree.
But like you said, if you're going to start accusing these individuals like that, I saw a social media post yesterday. Why are conservatives rallying and being emboldened to support this? And even Christian pastors have come out in Alabama in support of Roy Moore to support him on his movement and on his campaign because they don't believe it's true. And the question that I saw from a progressive that does not like him, why are conservatives tainting their name and their reputation to support someone like Roy Moore and being emboldened to back him up? And the very simple answer is that we're not going to be bullied by allegations that take us from the real discussion that we need to have.
Well, you better, by God, have some proof when you go accusing somebody of something that serious.
Absolutely.
And if you don't have proof, then you better have one hell of a credible reputation. Otherwise, your butt should be thrown in jail for doing something like that to somebody.
I agree. Sean, Sean, I appreciate it, my friend. I hate to cut you off there. I want to sneak in one more phone call before we take a break, but you're absolutely right. I mean, people will catch on to this, and if it's an ongoing trend of what I'm afraid of sensational politics here, then we will wake up to it sometime. And I mean, that's like trying to accuse, I don't know, to me, and I don't know anything about Roy Moore, but to me, this is the same of trying to accuse someone like Ron Estes of the same thing coming up for the midterm. And if that's the tactic they try, good luck with that, because it ain't going to work. It ain't going to happen. And conservatives would rally even more so behind someone like Congressman Estes if they tried something like that. It's absurd. And that's why you're seeing the rallying and the defense, even by religious individuals and priests and pastors, behind Roy Moore in Alabama, because they think it's absolutely absurd with the accusation. Let's go back to the phones here real quick, shall we? Good morning. What's your name?
This is Jim.
Jim, how are you, sir?
Oh, pretty good.
Good.
You know, the closest thing they have to proof is this girl showed up. She was a waitress, and he signed her yearbook.
Yes.
You know, I can't imagine the guy walked into this place and says, "Hey, do you have your yearbook? I'd like to sign it." More likely the girl was in there, and everybody who'd been in that restaurant for the previous week, she asked to sign the yearbook.
Yeah, I mean, come on, get an elected official like that at that time in the state Supreme Court or something. Hey, you know what? Can you sign my yearbook? Hey, darling, how you doing? Yeah, I signed your yearbook. How you doing today? I mean, that's not what you can't imagine that's not what would happen in a situation like that. He's not going to be there sitting there groping her, and then her be like, "Oh, can you sign my yearbook, please?" I mean, come on.
At least with Bill Clinton, we had a blue dress,
right?
And you can accuse somebody as I mean, for instance, okay. There's this guy who used to be on the radio in Wichita, Kansas, and, 30 years ago, he was involved with the assassination of JFK 50 years ago. Now, you prove that you weren't involved, and if it wasn't you, it was your father, or it might have been your great-granddad who was involved.
Right.
See, this is the thing. These people can make an accusation.
These simple accusations, right.
And because it isn't true, you have no proof.
Well, you're right. You have no proof, so therefore it's a he said, she said. And in today's times, now all of a sudden you're guilty, and you need to clean up your name and clean up your reputation because of the accusation. Jim, I appreciate it. We got to take a break here, but you're right. And that's why I don't like the sensation politics, because it could happen to anybody. I mean, we could see this kind of accusation to a state legislator here in the state of Kansas. I'm surprised that it hasn't happened yet. We could see this in a county commission race. We could see this in the governor's race. We could see this because right in today's times, as soon as the accusation flies with so much fake news out there and with social media, it'll spread like wildfire. And then that's the assumption by everybody. And then you have to spend the time going around trying to clean up the mess, trying to reestablish your reputation, and trying to prove everybody that you're innocent, as opposed to actually due process and innocent until proven guilty. It's a very dangerous, slippery slope, and that's not the way politics needs to go on any front. It's really pathetic. 25 minutes past the hour. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, KQAM.
Bottom of the hour news coming up. Went a little long in that segment again, but we love all the phone calls. Keep them rolling, baby. Plus, like and share the Facebook Live feed. We cannot allow those guys over on the sports side to be able to beat us. Not going to happen. We'll continue this conversation, shift gears just a little bit, get into the governor's race when we come back. This is your show. It's The Voice of Reason. Stay here. Making it happen today on a Tuesday. We're making Tuesdays great again. That's what it's all about. Welcome back into the Voice of Reason right here on the Big Talker KQAM. It's an honor, an absolute honor to have you along here for the ride. 721-8255-721-TALK. I cannot believe that we get to actually discuss politics in a fun, lighthearted, entertaining way. I cannot believe the fact that we get to change the mindset of public opinion when it comes to facts. An opportunity to be able to reach individuals that have never been reached before. We appreciate that, and that's what we get to do here on the show. Welcome into it. 721-8255-721-TALK. If you want to join in before this segment is over, we will be giving away Dave Ramsey's book, The Total Money Makeover. We got a few copies of that left, and you have a chance to win it today. Stay tuned in for that. Brought to you by You Build It of Wichita. We'll do that giveaway here in just a little bit for you. Just to let you know, a reminder, a couple of really big shows coming up here in the near future. We are getting more of the legislators to come on the show, and that should be here in the next couple of weeks. We have beginning to reach out to some of the governor's candidates, the gubernatorial candidates for 2018. The Republicans will get them on the show. I'd like to talk to each of them at least once before the end of the year because I want to get their take on what needs to happen with the legislative session coming up in January. So we'll get them on the show here soon. Also, tomorrow, you're not going to want to miss it. Tomorrow, we do speak with the man himself, Alex Jones from Infowars.com. You can hear his show on Sunday evenings here on KQAM from 5 to 7 o'clock, leading up to Armed American Radio. And we are going to be talking with Alex Jones on the show tomorrow, so don't miss that one. Plus, it just got confirmed with me that on Friday, December 8th, there is at the Pachyderm Club, the first week of December, that Senator Jim DeMint will be coming to town to speak at the Pachyderm Club to talk about the Convention of States. If you're not familiar with Jim DeMint, he's kind of a big deal. He was the conservative, pretty much he was like the Ted Cruz 10 years ago, 15 years ago. He is the firebrand conservative that had one of the loudest voices for a really long time. He headed up the Heritage Foundation, recently moved from that position, but headed up the Heritage Foundation. Now he's working with the Convention of States movement, a wonderful, wonderful individual. He's going to be speaking at the Pachyderm Club on Friday, December 8th. He's coming on the show in studio that Friday morning. So I'm really excited. We just got confirmed with that yesterday afternoon, late last night, but he will be in studio with me for the 8 o'clock hour on Friday, December 8th. So really excited about that one as well. Of course, we got some other things in the works too, some things you're not going to want to miss. But right off the bat tomorrow, Alex Jones of Infowars.com. It's funny. I don't know what to think about Alex Jones yet. I have the utmost highest respect for Alex Jones as a broadcaster, because he's obviously number 26 in the country for most listened to talk shows. He's kind of a big deal. I agree with a lot of what he says. How he does it, though, with this presentation is just a little off-putting to me. Just a little bit. Now, nothing against him personally. It's just a little bit different than my style. That's all. And some people love Alex Jones. I know a lot of people that do. And when I mentioned this yesterday and I teased it, you wouldn't believe the amount of social media messages I got asking to make sure that the TuneIn app and the online streaming's working because they were so excited to be able to listen to the Alex Jones interview tomorrow. Other people, not a fan. And they think that he's just a conspiracy theorist individual. Regardless of what you think of him, I have a lot of respect for him in that broadcasting sense. So really excited to chat with Alex Jones tomorrow. Stay tuned in for that, and we'll air that interview tomorrow at 8 o'clock. We'll re-air it in the 6 o'clock hour on Thursday for the Western stations as well. Right now, though, 721-8255-721-TALK. Whatever's on your mind, it's open lines to you. As I teased at the beginning of this hour, the Democrats, I want to know their platform and how they're going to run for this election. We have the first primary for a governor's race for the Democrats in 2 decades, which is kind of fun to watch. Democrats actually having a little bit different idea. The civil war within the Democratic Party, even in the state of Kansas, really showing its ugly face. And now, instead of being united behind one candidate, one person being propped up to run, now we have a primary. Now, whether they're trying to show diversity, whether it's they're kind of stepping away from the establishment, whether it's the Bernie Sanders movement running in here as opposed to the traditional establishment, or whether it's a whole new sect of the Democrat Party, we have a primary. And what they're going to do, here's the headline that I found from the Topeka Capital Journal. Old GOP hand, Democrats putting moderate spin on Kansas race for governor. Now, as you know, going into a general election for the most part, that they predominantly shift a little bit more center. They shift a little bit more to the middle on both sides of the aisle. Both of them do, because they've rallied their bases in the primary, and then they try and pick up the few moderates, independents, wishy-washies that are not sure who to go towards in the general election, and that's really for every candidate in every race for Republicans and Democrats, even the presidential races. They rallied the base in the primary, try and pick up the rest of them during the general. That's just what you do. Now, for the primary, though, you're supposed to rally your base. You need to rally the base of your party, the largest base that you can. In the Republican side, you rally the conservatives, you rally the Tea Partiers, you rally the firebrands that want the radical change. That's what you do. In the general election, I don't agree with this process, I'm just saying it's a reality. But in the general, then you say that you already assume you're going to have that voice, so you go after the moderates. You go after the independents. You go after the quote-unquote Reagan Democrats or the right-leaning Democrats a little bit, the fiscally conservative Democrats and some of those. As a Republican, that's what you do because you feel like you already have your base. Now, to me, I have a problem with that because I feel that when you do that, then you dismiss your base, that you just rally, that you got all excited for you in the primary race, then you just dismiss them because, hey, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go to the moderate side. Whether that's what you believe, and you're either lying to the base in the primary or you're lying to the non-base in the general. And I don't like that method. I just like getting out your ideas all together, and then who rallies behind you, and you're never going to dismiss them or take them for granted because you actually just promoted your ideas from the get-go. So there's different tactics in politics, but Democrats have a little bit tougher time, especially in the state of Kansas. It's a predominantly deep red run state with a few little pockets of blue in the state. Wichita being one of the biggest districts predominantly goes blue. But guess what? Not enough, because just look at what happened in the special election with Congressman Ron Estes for the 4th Congressional District, and look what happened. Even with Wichita going blue, we still won by 7 points. So the Democrat rallying base is still a minority in this area if you want to look at that district. Then you have the districts up north with Lawrence, maybe a little bit of Topeka, Kansas City a little bit, and that whole area. So you have the little pockets, and maybe Garden City on the western part of the state, maybe because it's growing out there, and predominantly the larger populated areas will go blue for the most part. So maybe there's a few pockets there. But rural Kansas, which is 90% of Kansas, is predominantly deep red. So what's the tactic for Democrats to run in an election that predominantly goes towards the red, towards the Republicans? They have to play the moderate approach, which is why you saw exactly what you saw just last week when they had their first forum with all the Democratic candidates, where they started to talk about lowering sales tax. They don't want to lower sales tax. They never have wanted to lower sales tax. If they wanted to lower sales tax as a platform for the Democrats would have been on board lowering sales tax during the legislative session last year or earlier this year, and we would have seen gas or grocery prices go down. But they didn't want to. They didn't get on board with that. The moderate Republicans didn't even get on board with that. They don't want to lower sales tax. But they talked about it in the forum because they're trying to play the moderate approach for the Democratic primary. They have to play that. Now, what they're going to do, they actually have to do the opposite here. They have to play the moderate approach in the primary to look like they're going to be a reasonable, rational candidate for the Democratic Party to think they had the best chance in order to win. Once they go into the general election, then you're going to see whatever candidate comes out and prevails as the general candidate for the Democrats. Then they're going to go to the hard left. And it's going to be very easy for them to do so because all they have to do is talk about Governor Brownback and the failed policies of conservatives and the failed policies of Brownback and how they're going to be different from Brownback and how they're going to be different from the Republicans, regardless of the fact that majority of Republicans are already at that same position. And you saw that in the last session, good, bad, or indifferent. That's what they did. That's going to be the platform of the Democrats. So they're going to take an opposite approach here. They're going to go into this one as the primary in the general or in the primary race, trying to play the moderacy, looking like they're going to be the best candidate to appeal to as many moderate Republicans as they can who despise Governor Brownback. Then when they get into the general election, it's going to be the Bernie Sanders light switch coming on. It's going to be the progressive activism. It's going to be expanding Medicaid, which they're open about, but they're going to be hard on it. They're going to promote heavily having to raise taxes even more to be able to get the state back on track. They're going to promote heavily having to increase spending for education because under Brownback, it's supposedly that we've cut taxes and we've had to cut spending for education across the board year over year over year. It didn't happen, but that's going to be their philosophy. It's going to be the hard left Bernie Sanders style activism in the general instead of the primary. Keep that in mind when you actually take a look at this. Now, looking over the last few governor's races, Kathleen Sebelius, first off, again, didn't have any competitors in the primary. But in the general election, during 2002, against, Tim Schellenberger, ended up getting 441,000 votes. Total of 835,000 in the entire general election for the governor's race. In 2006, it went up a little bit, 491 for her. But then Democrats stopped showing up. Democrats they feel like they got the rallying, that they got the momentum, the Bernie Sanders coming to the 9th state tour, coming to the state of Kansas. They feel that they have the rally to be able to re-energize their party, and the numbers just don't show that. After the 491,000 votes in 2006 for Kathleen Sebelius, Democrats just have not shown up to the ballot box. In 2010, Tom Holland won 270,000 votes. That's down from 491 just before that. They tried to come back in 2014 with Governor Sam Brownback running for re-election and got 401,000 votes. 401. I'd like to remind individuals, too, that the special election in the 4th Congressional District, that the total outcome with the major Democratic progressive movement to try and beat Ron Estes and put the candidate in there, James Thompson, the major rallying cry from progressives, the extreme progressives, the entire outcome for the special election was less than what Mike Pompeo received by himself in the general election in 2016. Democrats are crumbling even in the state. And I think even though they say it's healthy and they see it as a healthy bit for Democrats having multiple ones in a primary in the Democratic race for governorship next year, I see that as them not having united voice. Because predominantly they haven't. In 2 decades, Democrats haven't had a primary for the governor's race. They rallied behind one person. They moved him forward because they wanted to be united to have the loudest, strongest voice they could possibly have. Now they have a primary. They've had a few years of really, really low turnout over the last couple governor's races. They couldn't win in a predominant district where Wichita and this surrounding area has predominant progressive values in the Wichita area for the 4th Congressional District. They don't have the votes right now. Their only desperate attempt is to try and play the moderacy, try and play the middle of the road, and try and pick up those moderate Republicans who despise Governor Brownback and some of those conservatives that are actually promoting lower taxes. That's their only option. That's the only thing they can do with this race. So they're going to play the moderacy, the happy-go-lucky, get-along mentality in the primary, but wait until the general election and watch them flip that switch. It's that time, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for you to get a copy of the book. We've been doing this for the last week and a half. We got the end of this week. Until then, we got a few more copies. But your chance right now to win a copy of Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover, brought to you by You Build It of Wichita. It's very simple. All you have to do is call in right now. Really, caller number 1, 721-8255, 721-TALK will get you a copy of the book. Answer a simple question, and it's been easy so far. I just come up with these at the top of my head based on Dave Ramsey. So all you got to do is call in. You'll win a copy of the book. Over 5 million copies sold. We're talking about trying to get some to maybe remind our legislators about how to be financially secure and responsible and actually pay off debt. So we may be doing more of these later, but we got a few copies of this left. And let's go right to the phones here as we try and give away another copy. Brought to you by You Build It of Wichita, Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. And go to the phones we go. And good morning. What's your name?
Greg.
Hey, good morning, Greg. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
Hey, we're living the dream, my friend. Your copy of Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover is right here. If you can answer a simple question, and what is the nickname that Dave Ramsey has for leasing a car? What does he call that?
Stupid.
Well, it's stupid. I'll give you that. He calls it a fleece as well, but I would definitely call that stupid as well, because it really is. According to him, according to what Dave Ramsey says. Hang on the line here, Greg, and we'll get you your copy of Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. We'll get your information there. But there it is, Dave Ramsey's book, How to Get Out of Debt, How to Pay Off Your Debts, How to Be Financially Secure and Financially Fit. That's the way to do it here. This is The Voice of Reason on KQAM. Stay here.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Back into The Voice of Reason, wrapping up the show today. It goes by way too fast, doesn't it? Thanks again, and congrats to Greg for winning that book of the Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. We'll do another one tomorrow along with the turkey drop. We're running out of turkeys, but we still got a few left. Stay tuned in. We'll do the turkey drop again tomorrow at some point, I wonder. when it may be. Tomorrow's show going to be fun as we talk to Alex Jones with Infowars.com. So stay tuned for that. Potentially, we're going to have Congressman Ron Estes on the show on Friday, and it's been a little bit since we've chatted with him. I'm trying to reach out to, now that we're broadcasting, especially in the first hour, in other areas. We've talked with Frank Lucas from the Oklahoma's 3rd Congressional District out in the Panhandle area on the western part of the state. We're trying to get a few others, senators and congressmen from other areas, even up in Texas and in Oklahoma, New Mexico, Colorado, trying to get all these individuals on, not to mention the state legislators. Just imagine. I'd hate to be in their position right now. I really would. I feel bad for those guys and gals, just for the fact that they got to go back up to Topeka in about a month or so, a couple of months, and they have to figure out how to actually cut spending, which is very, very unlikely, or how to raise taxes, which is going to be very, very unpopular going into an election year. Because remember, we're not going to forget what they did last session. Whether you agree with it, like it, or disagree with it and hate it, it happened. They raised taxes retroactively in July, so you're going to owe taxes when you file in April, but not to mention you're going to see another tax increase in January because it was a stair step. So the tax increase you saw in July, you're still going to see another tax increase without them even doing a thing. Automatically, January 1, 2018, you're going to see another tax increase. But all of that's spent. It's already spent to compensate for the shortfall they already had. And then they increased spending another $400 million. So now they're going, and plus the Supreme Court now coming out and saying, yeah, you can need more money. So now they're going to have to figure out whether they're going to really step in and fight the fight that they've been needing to do so and shouldn't have let it got to this point already, or whether they're going to raise taxes again. It's going to be a troubling legislative session when usually for off-budgetary cycles, they like to be in, out, done, over, and get to an election where they don't have to make a very rash discussion or decision in session. This is your show. It's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. This is the Voice of Reason on KQAM. Have a great day, everybody.